All right, well, good morning from Dallas. This is our webinar we've been hearing a lot from students and families over the last couple of weeks. There's been a lot of extenuating circumstances that are causing a lot of stress on our students. And so we wanted to take this time to really talk about ways that we can help reduce the stress if you are going through unusual circumstances here in the admissions process. So we brought in a couple of our experts in some of our areas. I'll have them introduce themselves. My name is Abby Pfister-Soria. I'm one of the Associate Directors of Undergraduate Admissions and Director of Strategic Partnerships, and I'll be moderating this conversation this morning.
Good morning, I'm Rod Jackson, Senior Associate Director of Undergraduate Admission and Director of our Diversity Initiatives.
Hi, I'm Dr. Consuelo Perez. I'm the Director of Enrollment Resources, and I manage the Customer Service Center anytime you contact undergraduate admission via email or phone.
Great. So one of the first questions that we are hearing from you all is what happens if you or your family members are dealing with unusual circumstances, whether it's natural disasters, financial hardships, or just unusual circumstances that just do happen sometimes. So Rod, as an admission counselor, what are some tips that they should be doing to kind of help communicate that to us?
Well, exactly. The first thing I think family needs to do is to follow up with their admission counselor. We'd love to serve as advocates for our students, and we always talk about the more we know about a student, the better we're able to advocate for them. So whatever the situation may be, if it's financial, if it's a natural disaster, if it's something that's just completely unusual, we want to know that, whether it's through contacting us over the phone, through email, whether we meet with families individually. We want to get as much information about each student as possible so that we can use that as we move forward in the admissions process. And oftentimes situations like that may cause, it could cause a difference in the way a student performs in school. It could cause a difference in some of the activities that a student may be able to be involved with. And it could play a role in the process, and we want to know that. So we encourage families and students to reach out and let us know exactly what's going on, especially if it's played a role in the admissions process.
And so, although we've extended our deadline to the 15th, what about that student that might have, been really early in the admissions process, submitted their application back in September, something happens, and they've already hit the submit button? What should they do after that case? Because it might have impacted, they're a different student.
Different student, exactly. Two things. The student can follow up with us themselves, and oftentimes we'll have counselors the high school counselor will reach out on the student's behalf as well to let us know of the different scenarios or situations that have occurred after they've submitted the application to us. And it's the same scenario. We want to know what's going on. So pre-application or post-application, if it plays a role in the process, or if it's just additional information we want to know about, and we encourage you to let us know.
So I think the big theme is just making sure you're communicating with us. Don't feel it as it's an excuse. Just let us know what's going on. Consuela, a lot of times these types of situations have financial impacts. And is there anything, if a family has been going through this, anything in regards to the financial aid process, since tax information is 2 years ago, there could be a difference of an impact that 2 years ago it's not going to be reflected. Is there anything that they should be doing if they are that prepared type of family?
Yeah, unfortunately, it is a reality for a lot of our families that with the financial downturn being what it is, loss of employment, there may be a situation where parents are no longer together. Something you want to communicate not only with the admission counselor, but with the student's financial aid advisor. At SMU, we're fortunate that each of our students are assigned a specific financial aid advisor to work with them throughout their undergraduate career. You will be assigned to the same person who will become familiar with your family's financial circumstances. First and foremost is to notify someone, whether it be a phone call or an email, to let them know what the situation is. If you haven't submitted the applications for financial aid, either the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, or the CSS profile, which is done on the College Board's website, it's not too late to submit those applications, even if the circumstances occur at a later point in the admission cycle. The CSS profile does have a section that allows you to more thoroughly explain what the circumstances are regarding that family situation, and it allows you to do so in quite a lot of detail. The financial aid advisors are trained to look at that information as they're going through the financial aid process, and oftentimes they will reach out to a family if they review a application that shows some very extenuating circumstances, income adjustments usually being the one that's most common. Things that you don't oftentimes think about are unusual medical expenses. If there's a sibling who's now decided to go to college themselves, that can also be factored into the financial aid decision. Now, although the financial aid decisions are not impacted by scholarships, for instance, but oftentimes need-based aid can be impacted, particularly need-based aid that comes from SMU in the form of the SMU Opportunity Award. Oftentimes it's impacted by special circumstances that the family may be experiencing.
Wonderful. Both of you have worked here for a good amount of years, we really do value the sense of community here on our campus. Sometimes these situations, it's not just it gets resolved in a week. Sometimes it does go a little bit longer, and sometimes it manifests a little bit later in their college career. Just by working here, what are some resources that students and families can have once they become an SMU student that SMU provides for these students should the level of stress appear in different times?
Great. Three things that come to mind would be the advisors and our disabilities office and our learning enhancement center. So every student, when they start at SMU, will have an academic advisor to work with them through scheduling classes, through deciding what courses they should take, counseling them on to that next phase of the academic process. That's a big resource for students to start off with. For students that may have trouble academically, we have an Altshuler Learning Enhancement Center on campus. There's a writing lab, there's a world languages lab. You can get free tutoring for any subject you're having trouble with, one-on-one. And that's another huge resource for our students. They actually go a little step further and will reach out at the midpoint of each semester to follow up with students that may be having trouble or that they may assume could potentially have trouble, giving them a soft reminder or encouraging them to come in and take advantage of the services that the Altshuler Enhancement Center offers. Within the Altshuler Enhancement Office, there's also a learning specialist, learning different specialist, and she's there to help work with students that may need any additional assistance, whether it's working with faculty members, whether it's working through any type of learning disability that a student may have. So we try to give that extra effort to make sure that every student has the support services they need to be successful here.
Great. Consuela, anything on the financial aid side in regards to if something pops up or anything like that?
One of the things that we're looking at right now, particularly that we are in the midst of spring pre-registration, is working with our retention office in order to look at students who may have some difficulty satisfying any balances that they may have, to look at potential scholarships or other types of need-based aid that we may be able to offer those students to make sure that they're able to attend and continue attending SMU to the next semester. Again, students are oftentimes reluctant to come to us and share if they're having difficulty financially. That difficulty may not have manifested itself at the beginning of the semester, but we want to make sure that we're doing everything that we can as a university to be sure that we are helping those students not only start their SMU education, but complete their SMU education.
Wonderful. So I think the biggest themes that you're hearing today in our brief conversation is it all goes back to communication. And so if you are watching this video and you're not sure who your admission counselor is, just to have that starting point, if you go to smu.edu/admissions, there is a website called Meet Your Counselor. It's all based upon the school that you're currently attending. So if you're a high school student, it'll be based upon your high school. If you're a transfer student, it'll be based upon your current community college or for your institution. And that's just a great first start. to open up that line of communication with your admission counselor so that we can make sure that we take that into context. Other resources, if you can always email our general admission counselor, admission account at ugadmissions@smu.edu. We absolutely want to hear about it so that we absolutely can take that into consideration. Any last minute tips or anything that we can tell our families before wrapping this up this morning?
I think the biggest thing that I've heard feedback, particularly from families as they're going through this very stressful time of year as we head into the holidays, but also you getting your wonderful admission decisions, is making sure that you stay in contact with us as you're going through this process. We're here to help you. And the other thing that a lot of our families have told us compared to many other universities is that we're accessible. When you contact our offices, you do get an actual live person answering the telephone, not an endless telephone directory. So I would encourage you, if you're not able to communicate with us, particularly those of you who may not be on the Central Standard Time, is to reach out to us via email. We're quite prompt, usually within 1 business day, of responding back to you, if not sooner, for any request that you may have.
And if you're fortunate, that live voice just may be Dr.
Yeah, it probably will be.
And just relax as you go through the process. It's going to be very stressful with all of the requirements and the pressure that's added about this process. And we try to make it a little less stressful for students. So use us as resources.
Great. Well, thank you for joining us. And again, those resources that you can find online should you have any additional questions